Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tech. We can't remember which number it is. I'm your host, co-host, I guess, Noah Eltringham, and I'm here with...
And I'm co-host number 2, Braedon, and we're with IT Edge, and we have an interesting thing to talk about today. So we kind of got into this podcasting thing.
We even had a sign made.
Yes, we got a sign. So we have some posts and some videos out pre-sign, and we were just talking about we have the pre-sign era and then the post-sign era. Right. So two totally different versions of all of these videos. We're much happier with the post-sign era.
We are. More experienced, cleaner look.
Yes. Yeah, and now you have the proper polo.
I do, so with the logo and everything.
So we're uniformed. We have uniforms. We have a sign. We have some other upgrades potentially coming, but in this episode in particular, we wanted to talk about why we started doing this. I mean, this is an interesting venture, I think, for an IT company to get into. So just wanted to deep dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if you're familiar with IT Edge or were familiar prior to the launch of this podcast, you might be thinking, like, okay, why is an IT company that's been around for 35 years suddenly starting a podcast with these two young dudes?
Yeah, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is like, okay, so you hear people say, oh, you have a podcast, and then everyone's like, oh, you have a podcast, okay, everyone has a podcast, yeah. And oh, another podcast. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, okay, is this something that we shouldn't be doing? Are we just jumping on some kind of trend? Mm-hmm. Is this something that we shouldn't be actually pursuing? And then I started thinking more about, we thought about this before we launched it, but it's why are we doing this? Is it just because it's a trend, or does it have a more significant reason to it?
Right.
Then I was thinking, okay, is this something that's worth talking about? Because one, just to understand why IT Edge is suddenly doing a podcast, but two, for businesses or organizations that have likely been thinking about this somewhere in their marketing efforts of should we be podcasting, and kind of the right and wrong ways to approach that.
Right. I feel like if you're thinking about it, you have to have a defined idea that you want to get across. Some people, there are millions of different types of podcasts. A lot of people don't want to hear just two people chatting about whatever.
Yes.
I am one of those people who likes listening to that stuff, but I know I'm in the minority.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If it's entertaining blabbering, I guess it's different. But defining the purpose. The purpose for this podcast, I think we were finding our legs a little bit, especially at the beginning. But now we're starting to define that, and we're on month 7 of our journey, mm-hmm. month 7, 8 of this journey. It's like, okay, so we want to talk about digital marketing, of course, yep. and technology. Talking tech. We want technology to be in there in the focus, but also to tie in our community of Chester County and the surrounding areas. So, we're still honing in on exactly what we want, but if we have technology and then our community, those are two great silos to go down.
Right, and that kind of brings us back to the original question of why is an IT consultant who's been around for 35 years just randomly starting a podcast? It's a what's the word? I can't think of it right now, but it's a purposeful decision. We sat down, we talked about, okay, in terms of internal growth, how can we try to reach a bigger audience and kind of let our existing audience know that, we've been part of this community for such a long time. We care about you. We want to help you out, even if we're not giving you direct business. You know what I mean? So that's a very convoluted way of saying that we did this as a way of community outreach, essentially.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think in terms of business, like business podcasts, if you're going to be launching one or thinking about launching one, that's an important goal to have. Just building your community, growing your community.
Yes. Yeah, and something with IT Edge, been around for 35 years, 30 some years. I think there are a lot of businesses and organizations that can relate to we've been around for a while, but I feel like there aren't that many people that know about us.
Right.
We're the best kept secret.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important if you're trying to breach into that brand awareness zone. And again, this can be for a for-profit company or a nonprofit organization, or anything in between those, that if you're shooting for brand awareness, you need some reason that the community wants to connect with you, that you're able to branch out. So having that, and it doesn't have to be a podcast. There are lots of other ways. In-person events are great if you're having in-person events. But for our particular circumstances, I think we just found this to be a great way to bring people in the office.
Yeah.
Check it out, see it. Anytime that we have a guest on, we take them on a little tour. They get to meet some people on the team. We get to talk about, what we do. And then, most importantly, then we get to learn on camera what the other person does and what their organization does. So it's very mutually beneficial. It's great.
It's especially been eye-opening to me since, I just celebrated my technical full year, only been full-time for 7 months now. But I know it's very beneficial to me to bring in people we have partnerships with, clients and stuff like that, just to learn what exactly we're doing and how we're helping each other. Because when you work remote, it can kind of seem pretty faceless. You know what I mean? There's a degree of separation between the work and the result.
Yeah.
So getting to meet those people in person has just really opened my eyes to like what we're actually providing and what our community really is.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, digital age. Even if selfishly, okay, we want to just get in a room with people that are interesting to talk to and that we already have like these digital relationships with, but there's not really a particular reason for a meeting right now.
Right.
But I just want to learn more about you, and you can do this off camera just by getting coffee with someone. It's a great way, getting a coffee, getting lunch. It's excellent, but if we can also then take that to the next step and push the message, then just like you said, in a world of remote work, it's a great opportunity to get to see people face to face.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
spend some time together in an environment that's, you're not spending any money. You're not going out to lunch. You're not going out to the big game.
Yeah.
You're just having them over. You're hanging out, have a coffee, have a water, and you're just chatting.
Yeah, and I think for all the things that digital work is, remote work is, I think it's great for a lot of reasons, but it does lack that personal touch sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a great way of just getting to meet the clients, getting to know them, building that interpersonal relationship rather than operating through a screen or a Zoom call.
Yes. Yeah. So, I think that's been a big, one of the main drivers for us is let's build these relationships with guests, but also just in our community of being able to push the guests' business, organization, general voice and opinions out to our broader audience of all of our social media followers.
Yeah.
So I think that's been great so far, and just to be able to chat with these folks that IT Edge has been with for 30 years. It's very rare and a unique opportunity. And we have a lot of things coming also for this podcast.
We do.
And how we develop it, how we develop the podcast, how we actually produce it, the organization and structure of having guests on. So there's a lot to learn, but there's also been some great progress from day one.
Absolutely. So. there is a bit of a learning curve, but it's also great because it's a medium that anybody can do, really.
Yeah.
It does not take that much prior knowledge to get into. fairly accessible. All you need is a microphone. You don't even need to do video.
No.
You know, podcasts primarily an audio medium. So it's very accessible if it's calling your name or if you're thinking about it. It's pretty easy to get into.
Yeah, I think any business and organization, like we said, but like you should consider it. It might not be the right option for you, but it's something to think about to have guests in and get more social media content. I mean, I know that was one of the big drivers for us, but how other businesses and organizations can benefit from it. You know, in the digital marketing world, you hear so much more now about video content everywhere. It's how do we get more video content? Well, we aren't necessarily going to take a video of someone installing a workstation on site,
Right.
Plugging in a computer and doing the wiring, although that might actually be, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But we want some content variation, and we just want some interesting new channels for people to consume.
Right. Yeah.
So just being able to have that variation and putting that face to the business is something that we talked about a lot. Saying that we're not just a help desk somewhere in Westchester. We are a local company that talks with local folks, and we have them in, and we connect face to face.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, to your point, anyone can do this. Any business and organization, get the mic, invite a guest in, and start talking. I guess the most difficult piece of it is, in my opinion, the distribution.
I totally agree.
How you push it to your channel. So I know you've been managing the distribution and understanding that organization. So can you talk a little bit about, to that point for businesses that might be interested in starting something similar?
Yeah. So the main channel that we use for our distribution is YouTube. Pretty much because we have this video element to it. However, like I said, podcasts being primarily an audio medium, I don't think YouTube supports solely audio files. So that can pose some challenges because I know YouTube is obviously, the biggest media sharing platform out there.
Yeah, I guess you could overlay it over like a still image.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. It definitely requires some editing knowledge though, which, that can also be kind of a hard point to overcome in terms of getting on the podcast train. But regardless, I'm getting off track here. You get me talking about editing software, I won't shut up. There are lots of channels that you can use for audio distribution. Spotify, obviously, one of the biggest podcasting platforms in the world. To distribute our audio-only file, we use a platform called Anchor, which is really nice, really easy to set up, super user-friendly. It'll literally walk you through the entire process. All you have to do is create an account, upload your audio file, and it distributes it. It's also really nice because you can link your Anchor account to other distribution platforms. There are so many out there. I don't know all of them. But like Apple Podcasts, Google Play something, the Android version of Apple Podcasts. There's like iHeartRadio podcasts and stuff like that. So there's like probably 10 plus different channels that you can link to your Anchor account. And once you push out something on Anchor, if you're linked correctly, it'll push it out to all of these different platforms. Another thing that I found really beneficial is, again, to preface, it requires a little bit of editing knowledge. Simply pushing out clips of your podcast onto your personal social media, or I should say your business's social media. Like I said, requires a little bit of editing knowledge, but I think it's well worth it. Simply because it gives you that content variant. You're not just posting still images or text posts. You're getting that video content out there. Like you said, Brady, even if it's audio overlaid over a still image, still counts as video content. Right. If there's a play button, it's video content.
Yeah.
So one, you're getting that content variant which is good for the algorithm. 2, you're pushing out really consumable bits of media rather than, someone might click on your podcast, see that it's 25 minutes long, and go, oh, there's no way I'm listening to that,
Right.
But if you go through the audio during the editing process and think, okay, that's a good thing right here, that's a good thing right there, and you clip it into 15 to 30 second snips, much more consumable for the average social media user. So, 1, it might drive people to listen to the actual full-length podcast, and 2, even if they don't listen to the whole full-length podcast, you're still getting that awareness pushed out there, in terms of small, more consumable clips.
Yes.
So there are plenty of ways to do it. I could go through all of the different social media channels, but in terms of distribution, I think it's important to really push it out wherever you have an avenue to do so.
Yeah, I mean, and with the platforms, I mean, like we use SEMrush that compiles all of our social media platforms that I'm sure you've talked about previously on some other episode. But we have all of our social media platforms combined in a way that we can post to one platform and it goes across all of them. And then with Anchor, where it's kind of the same thing, but with the audio file, where you can post to one place and it goes across all of them, that you're really only posting in 2 or 3 places, I think, because YouTube would be separate.
It would.
So if you post to like SEMrush or some social media management software, or just Meta Business Suite, I mean, that's going to Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
So you do Meta Business Suite, Anchor, and YouTube. Then you get your podcast on 15 different platforms.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, if not more. And you're only posting 3 places.
Yeah.
So the distribution to a lot of different places with the long form and then the clips for that short form variant, I think is incredible. Then the final piece is getting those that have been distributed everywhere in front of the right people.
Right.
And part of that would be your organic audience. You have followers or people that subscribe or, whatever that organic following is. Maybe you have an email list or some kind of newsletter that you push the video content, long or short form, out onto, which is a great avenue. But then finally, I think it'd be great to talk a little bit about the kind of that next step. So one would be pushing it to paid advertising and just essentially boosting that up to people that don't already follow you. And then the other one is just working with other channels organically. Like if we have a guest on, inviting them to share that video to their network. So doing that kind of next step to push that distribution to non-followers.
And that's the hardest part, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Obviously we're not in this for the views. We're not trying to become professional podcasters or anything. But it is interesting to see how many people you've reached. And I believe our max right now is in the mid-30s.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
That's incredible.
That's
a nice large room full of people.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to put it in perspective,
Yes.
It's definitely the hardest part.
That's only one platform, I think. I mean,
that's only on our YouTube page.
Yeah. So we have a YouTube. I think one of our guest videos at this time has. I mean, a few of them have like 20 some. The high 20s and I guess low 30s is kind of that higher range right now. But that's just one platform.
Yeah.
If you look at how many people saw that on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and the Google business profile, and then when we refine that into clips, and then who saw all those clips?
Yeah.
I mean, you must be talking. I haven't looked at all the numbers. This is something that we're working on right now, but I'm sure that reaches over 100 people.
Oh, definitely.
So that's incredible for something that has just started. We're learning. We're getting our legs. I mean, if you can say you can make a video and launch it that reaches 100 people for free.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
Right. And a lot of that is thanks to partnership with other channels, especially.
Yeah.
I think the video I'm thinking of was with Laura Mannion of, she's with CCCBI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Chester County Chamber of Business and Industry,
Yeah.
we really made a point and we made a point, and they also made a point to say, let us know when this video is coming out. We'll push it out to everybody.
Yeah.
So that was great of them.
And having like that partner include it on their social medias, their newsletter.
Exactly.
I mean, that the reach potential is incredible.
Yeah.
To pull from those audiences, and the Chester County Chamber is great in doing just that.
I think it's important to manage your expectations when you're going into a situation like this, because we all see those, you see, like, you like Lex Friedman, he's got, I don't even know how many million.
I think he has like 3 million subscribers
Right.
on one channel.
So it's like you're getting hundreds of thousands of views per episode. It's not going to be like that. It's important to manage your expectations.
The 20 and 30 is incredible.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the learning curve cannot be undervalued either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anything else. You look at another business, you look at another organization, you compare like numbers on views or numbers in dollars in profit.
Yeah, right.
Or numbers in dollars in donation. It's just unrealistic to assume that you doing something for 6 months will get the same results as someone who's been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
So that's a great point, is setting reasonable goals as well.
Right. And if you're able to hit that 30 mark, that's great. There's 30 more people who are now aware of your business, what you're doing, how you're helping the community. And those 30 people, obviously word of mouth, is a great way to get out your message,
Yeah.
So even just one person, one view, I think makes it well worth it.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and that's not considering all the other channels we talked about. So, I mean, someone could be on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, some social media, they're scrolling down the page and they see the clip video come up and they see 2 people talking and the sign behind us. And then they keep scrolling. That's an impression of the logo. I mean, that's why this sign is here.
That's why we made it so big.
Yes. Someone can scroll past and they're getting hit with the sign.
Yeah.
So, and we redesigned the logo recently. And the new logo is big block letters.
You can't miss it.
The goal is, that was the goal designing it. It's like, okay, you see on a t-shirt, you see on a social media post, you see anywhere, there's no confusion of what this is.
Right.
IT Edge. It's right there, right in front of you. And just someone scrolling by and seeing that is, that's a win as well.
Yeah.
And that, I don't even think counts as a view. It's probably an impression.
Yeah.
It doesn't even count as a view, but it's still a win.
Right. Yeah. You're still getting your message out there. You're becoming aware. That's the key word here, is awareness.
Yeah.
Essentially. When you have viewers and listeners, that's great. That's more people who know you, get a look into your personality, your business's personality, the message. But even when you don't have listeners, they're becoming aware that you exist.
Yes.
That's the whole thing, is brand awareness.
Yes, totally. And I think the final thing I just want to touch on real quick is so many businesses and organizations having the time issue that we don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, totally understand.
Totally.
It's not like we particularly had an extra 10 hours, an extra 3 hours in each one of our days,
right,
where we said, oh yeah, let's do this. It was a matter of carving out a little bit of time,
mm-hmm.
but it's not a huge time commitment with the distribution channels we talked about.
Right.
I mean, we have this conversation in 20, 30 minutes. We clip it 5 times. We post that throughout the month. Maybe 30 minutes, an hour in editing. and then an hour in distribution. Then you're talking 3 hours a month, and that's only one episode, but you're talking 3 to 4 hours per month that you can do in one day, where all of your social media content is taken care of.
Right, exactly. Like you were saying, we did have to carve out time. So initially, there was a bit of a sacrifice in terms of social media content and internal development. But since that process has been refined, and we've kind of gotten over the learning curve, it definitely pays for itself now.
Yes, and we're working it in to existing structures.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, there was definitely, I'd say the 6 months, because, we don't have the time to spend 8 hours a day for an entire month on how do we do this perfectly.
Right.
Because we were carving out time, it had that 6-month curve to it where we're getting everything set and we're still improving, we're still getting things situated, but in a place where it's more comfortable. We have processes down, we have a little studio set up, but in 6 months, in the grand scheme of things, that's not too long to develop a whole new brand awareness campaign and marketing infrastructure.
Right, yeah.
Which then cuts down on what are we going to post on social media this month? That takes up way too much time the months before we had this set up.
Yeah, exactly.
So it ends up saving, I'd say, a significant amount of time when we were talking about before creating all of our own creatives, getting all of our media and photo content and creating all the captions organically, and let's just do some video content, clip it up and push it out. The speaking can speak for itself.
Exactly, yeah. That initial sacrifice pays off like 100 times, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we're hitting our 30-minute mark here. I'd say if any business or organization wants to do this, you should do it.
Totally agree.
You should try it. And if you want to collaborate with us, you know where to find us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll come on yours. You can come on ours, and we'll have a great time. But I thought it was important to address why an IT company is doing this.
Yeah.
The process and our journey up to this point from the no sign to sign world, and how you can do it too if you're a business or organization.
And like we said, for us, this is all about community building. So if you're interested in it, please reach out to us. We'll give you any tips that we have to make it easier for you, how to get hooked up with distribution. That's what we're all about here.
Yes.
Lifting each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great positive message to wrap it up on. Totally agree. And we'll catch you on the next episode of Talkin' Tech.
Cool.